Okay, now that we learned what the slopes are to perpendicular lines, you are going to be able to write an equation of a perpendicular line given a line that it's perpendicular to and a point that it goes through. It's just like parallel, where the first thing you're going to do is find out the slope. The second thing, you identify the point it goes through and the slope that you identified, and then you use point slope. I do want you to remember that the perpendicular slope is negative the reciprocal. And I also want to remind you that when we identify slope, the first thing we need to make sure is that y is alone. And if y is not alone, we need to get it alone first. Okay, so here's the application. Create a line that is perpendicular to y equals 1/2 x minus 3 and passes through the point 2, 2. So I underline perpendicular, and I know that that means negative the reciprocal. I see that y is by itself, so I box off the slope. My slope is 1/2, so 1/2 will turn into negative 2 over 1. I flip it, make it the opposite sign, and then I just go ahead and let my 1 hide. This is my step 1. Step 2, I use the point that I go through, 2, 2, and my slope is equal to negative 2. And step 3 should be coming pretty natural to us now. You use point slope to create the equation. Y minus the y you're given is equal to your slope times x minus the x you're given. I'm going to now turn this into slope intercept, so I'm going to distribute my negative 2. Y minus 2 equals negative 2x plus a positive 4. Negative 2 and negative 2 is a positive 4. Plusing 2 to both sides to get y alone, and you get y equals negative 2x plus 6 as the equation of your perpendicular line. And reminder, that means that these two lines intersect at a 90-degree angle. Okay, I want to create an equation of a line that's perpendicular to y equals negative 1/3 x plus 5, and it passes through the point 2, 8. So I make sure that y is alone, which it is. Then I'm going to box off my slope, that's negative 1/3, and perpendicular means I flip it, and then I make it the opposite sign. So since it was negative at first, it will be positive, and then I let my 1 hide. So step 2, I use the point I'm given in my new slope, my perpendicular slope. And then step 3, you use point slope. Y minus the y you're given is equal to your slope times x minus the x you're given. Okay? Then I'm going to distribute. Y minus 8 equals 3x minus 6. I'm going to plus a negative because I don't want to mess up my signs. Plus 8 to both sides. And you get y equals 3x plus 2, because negative 6 plus 8 is a positive 2. And that is the equation of my perpendicular line. Okay? The next one, y equals 4x minus 7, and it passes through the point 4, 12. So the first thing I need to do is calculate my slope, and it looks like y is alone, so I can look at this one. This is really 4 over 1, so I need to flip it, 1 over 4, make it the opposite sign. Second step, I go through the point 4, 12, and my perpendicular slope is negative 1, 4. Third step, use point slope. Y minus the y you're given is equal to your slope, negative 1, 4, times x minus the x you're given. I'm going to go ahead and plus a negative inside the parentheses there because I'm going to distribute a negative. Y minus 12 equals negative 1/4 x dividing by 4. So negative 1/4 of a negative 4 is a positive 1. Because negative 1/4 times 4 over 1, that would cancel out. Oh, and it's negative 4 over 1. And then I'd have negative 1 times negative 1 is positive 1 over 1. Plus 12 to both sides. And you get y equals negative 1/4 x plus 13. That is the equation of my line that is perpendicular to the given line and goes through the point 412. All of these were more level 3.5. I want to throw a level 4 in here for you because you need to know what to do when y isn't by itself at first. So go ahead and write this equation down. If we had, let me think here, 6x minus 3y equals 5. And I want to create an equation that's perpendicular, let me rewrite that, perpendicular to this line, and it goes through the point, let's make it go through the point 1, 2, just for fun. Okay, and all the previous 3 examples, it's been a little easier because y has already been by itself. We have to remember that you can't analyze slope unless the equations in slope intercept, right? Y equals mx plus b, meaning y needs to be alone. So I'm going to plus a negative for my minus 3y so I don't mess up that negative 3 in front. I'm going to subtract my x term to both sides of the equal sign. That cancels that out, and I get negative 3y equals negative 6x plus 5. Then I need to divide by the coefficient of y. So I divide everything by negative 3. And I get y equals a positive 2x plus a negative 5/3. And that's okay that it looks ugly, because we don't care about that. All we care about is the slope. So my slope is 2 over 1. Then my perpendicular slope is going to be flip it, make it the opposite sign. So this was all step 1. Now I can do step 2, where I have the point I go through, and now I know my perpendicular slope, minus 1/2. Step 3, using point slope. Y minus the y you're given is equal to negative 1/2 times x minus the x you're given. That's a 1. Let me make that a little nicer. Okay, now I'm going to plus a negative, and I'm going to go ahead and distribute. So I get y minus 2 equals negative 1/2 x. Negative 1/2 times a negative 1 is going to be a positive 1/2. And then I'm going to plus 2 to both sides. And I get y equals negative 1/2 x. And it's going to be a fraction as my y-intercept here. 1/2 plus 2 is 2.5. But we don't write it as mixed numbers much in 8th grade. So I'm going to convert that to an improper fraction. Y equals negative 1/2 x plus 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5 over 2. And this would be the equation of my line that is perpendicular to the first one that was given to me and went through the point 1, 2. Again, step 1, get y alone. Make sure you identify your slope. That's what I did here. My slope was 2 over 1. Then I found my reciprocal slope. So this is my recip slope. So I flipped it. 2 over 1 became 1 over 2. And I made it the opposite sign. Step 2, I just start prepping up for point slope. Step 3, this is point slope. And then you make it look pretty and you get y isolated into slope-intercept form.